Sid goes to a hot spring, where he finds Alexia, who is already naked. Alexia tells him about the goddess trial, where challengers duel the spirits of famous warriors. She asks Sid to join the Crimson Knights to assist her with her investigation of Archbishop Drake's murder, but he refuses and leaves. Meanwhile, Alexia's investigation is cancelled by temporary Archbishop Nelson, who she suspects is the killer. Beta and Alexia meet, but don't like each other. During the trial, many fighters are humiliated when no famous warriors manifest to duel them. Rose pays for Sid's entry fee to the trial to show her father his potential. Sid, afraid of exposing his true strength, crashes the trial as Eminence and ends up fighting and defeating Aurora, the Calamity Witch. The shadows are impressed with Sid's actions, and the arena barrier suddenly collapses, activating a new summoning spell. Sid decides to participate in the circle and disappears, followed by Alpha and the rest of Shadow Garden, who also enter the sanctuary. Alexia and Rose follow them in. Alpha reveals she is an elf and descendant of Olivier, the hero who cut off Diablo's left arm 1,000 years ago. Sid meets Aurora, who has been trapped in the sanctuary for 1,000 years, and he releases her. Aurora reveals that Sanctuary is actually a prison that holds the memories of every past hero, and destroying the magical core of Sanctuary will delete all those memories, including hers. As they pass through the memories, Sid and the Shadows learn that the cult used Sanctuary to experiment on orphan girls with Diablo's blood to resurrect him. The experiments produced pills that turn people demonic, but once a year, the cult produces 12 beads that grant 1 year of immortality to the 12 leaders of the cult, the Knights of Round. Nelson, who helped create the first beads 1,000 years ago, turns demonic and scatters everyone throughout different memories while creating copies of himself to fight all the shadows simultaneously. Epsilon informs Sid that she and the other girls in Shadow Garden were previously experimented on by the cult, but he was able to cure them of their demonic side effects while still retaining their strength. They then steal the cult's experiment records from Sanctuary's archive. Sid and Aurora make their way to the core of Sanctuary, which is sealed by chains that only a magic sword nearby can cut. However, the sword can only be wielded by a descendant of a hero, and Nelson summons Olivier to fight. The Shadows abruptly teleport out of Sanctuary with Alexia and Rose, leaving Nelson confused. Sid duels Olivier, but finds it boring as Olivier is mute and obedient. Aurora decides to protect Sid, and Sid claims to have figured out one of Sanctuary's secrets. Olivier stabs Sid through the heart, but he reveals that one of his eyes has changed color, and he smiles. 14. Sid reveals that he allowed Olivier to stab him without hitting his vital organs, and then kills her with his teeth. He tells Nelson that Sanctuary absorbs magic from the air and that he was able to use magic again by compressing his magic into a solid mass in his eye. Sid uses an atomic bomb spell to destroy Nelson and the Sanctuary core. Aurora kisses Sid and urges him to find the real Aurora. Alexia and Rose decide to form a secret organization to fight against the cult and Shadow Garden. Beta agrees to help them as Natsume. Alpha discovers from Sanctuary's archives that Aurora is actually the demon Diabolos. Meanwhile, Shadow Garden purchases property in Madlid to access an oil field. Alexia learns that the Beatrix Church is involved with the cult, but cannot investigate further due to political reasons. Iris decides to join the Bushin Festival tournament to gain more political power. Rose discovers that she may be infected with demonic blood. The Bushin Festival is here, and Sid has a plan to amaze the crowd. He disguises himself as Mundane Man, an unskilled knight who died in poverty, using magical slime makeup provided by Gamma. Anaros, a foreign knight who fought at the goddess trial, witnesses Sid pretending to be weak and losing to a fighter named Quentin, but suffering no injuries. Sid learns that Iris, Rose, Anaros, Quentin, and a mysterious nameless Dark Knight are the favorites to win the tournament. Meanwhile, Rose tells Sid that her father has arranged for her to marry a man named Pervashat, who will force her to give up sword fighting. Sid advises Rose to do what makes her happy and to try to relax. During the preliminary fights, Goldie Gilded, an arrogant knight, advises Skell on how to identify the most likely winners but is disappointed when Mundane wins a fight without moving. Only Anaros notices that Mundane moved so fast he defeated his opponent before the fight began. Goldie announces that Mundane will be his next opponent. The next morning, it is announced that Rose has disappeared after allegedly stabbing Perv. Rose's disappearance causes suspicion and negative consequences for inter-kingdom relations. Alexia decides to help find and protect her, but Beta discourages her from getting involved as she already knows Rose's location in the underground ruins. Sid encounters an elf named Beatrix who resembles Alpha and is searching for her missing niece. As mundane, Sid faces Goldie in a duel, surprising Anaros and Quentin with his unusual but effective techniques. He defeats Quentin and reveals his superhuman speed. Iris discovers that Rose didn't harm Perv Asshat, who has a controlling influence over Rose's father, the king. Rose remains on the run from the soldiers who are searching for her. Sid's sister Claire comes to visit, but he avoids her by pretending to join Skell in hunting for Rose to get a large reward. However, Sid admires Rose for her bravery in escaping an unwanted marriage. While searching for Rose, Sid hears the Moonlight Sonata and discovers Epsilon playing the piano. She tells him that she poses as a skilled pianist to cultivate useful connections in the Oriana kingdom. Alexia and Beta believe Rose ran away after discovering Perv is a cultist using magic to brainwash the king. They enter the underground to find her, but Rose decides to fight alone after being cured of her infected blood by Eminence. Sid is pleased that he was able to impress Rose by playing the piano underground. Later, he returns home to find that Claire has been waiting for him all day. Claire, Sid's sister, punishes him for ignoring her by replacing Rose in the festival and insisting Sid watch her from VIP seating. Sid sits beside Iris, who apologizes for the Xenon incident, and they discuss the festival's Dark Knight competitor, Beatrix, the elvish war goddess who happens to be Alpha's aunt. Sid sneaks away to disguise himself as mundane to duel Anaros. Perv sits beside Iris, revealing his confidence in Rose's return and his interest in hiring strong warriors, especially Anaros. In the arena, Anaros attempts to match Mundane's speed but fails. Iris is determined to defeat Mundane in the next match. Perv investigates Mundane, but he is confident he has no connection to Shadow Garden, an all-female organization. Anaros thanks Mundane and invites him to work for her country's government, but he declines. Sid plans to disappear after defeating Iris and become a legend, but Claire reminds him he forgot to watch her match. Sid sits beside Iris and Beatrix to watch Claire's match. Perv is still drugging the king and plans to have the king kill Alexia and Iris' father to start a war. Claire wins her match, but is furious when she can't find Sid in the audience again. Iris duels Mundane but has terrifying visions of him killing her instantly. Mundane defeats her in a single move. Shadow Garden helps Rose infiltrate the VIP area, and she kills her own father, who was under Perv's control. Mundane stops Rose from killing herself, kills Perv's men and reveals himself as Eminence. Rose remembers that Eminence is also the boy who saved her from bandits when she was kidnapped as a child, which inspired her to learn sword fighting. Beatrix realizes that Eminence is a wanted terrorist and challenges him to a duel. Beatrix engages in a fight with Eminence, and during the battle, Iris decides to team up with Beatrix. Alpha approaches Rose and offers her a place in Shadow Garden, which she accepts. Eminence performs his most potent attack, causing Iris and Beatrix to become frightened, but he disappears at the last moment, leaving Iris angry and seeking revenge. Perv is forced to plead for forgiveness from his master due to his failure. Beatrix is upset that she never found her niece, and Sherry hears about the attack and vows to kill Eminence one day. With Eminence's true identity now public, the Shadows start preparing to support Sid, hoping that he will take a more active role in running Shadow Garden. Alpha leads Rose into the monster-filled mountains near Sid and Claire's childhood village, where Shadow Garden's secret base is located. Rose has everything taken away from her, including her name, and becomes a nameless soldier in Shadow Garden's army. Meanwhile, Sid is pleased with how his role-playing went with Iris and Beatrix and looks forward to the next game.